Hey, I'm Chris, and this is MMA for you. I'm going to be doing my post-fight analysis for UFC 202, McGregor versus Diaz 2. But before I get into that, I'd like to plug my own author's website at www.chrismaldon.com. I am an author specializing in the fantasy genre, and you can check out some of my works, starting with my first novel, and a fantasy adventure called The Mustard Prince in the Condiment Kingdom, for $4.99 on my author's website at www.chrismaldon.com on PDF format, or if you have some form of e-reader, you can buy it from amazon.com for $4.99. Also, you can check out some of my short stories and short story collections starting for just $1.99, but on both my website and on Amazon.com, starting with the fantasy horror short story, The Land of the Wooden Statues, which I'm trying to make into a novel. The horror collection, which is a collection of three of my gothic horror short stories, and my fantasy fable collection, which is a collection of four of my fantasy fable short stories. Links to all to buy this stuff and to my website are provided on the description below. Okay, on to this fight card. This was a great fight card. I mean, just as far as pure entertainment goes, you had the fight of the year, or definitely a fight of the year candidate with McGregor versus Diaz 2. Um, let's see, Johnson versus Teixeira was a finish. Story versus Roney, finish. Perry versus Lim, finish. Means versus Homasi, there's a finish there. Garbrandt versus Mizugaki, finish there. Casey versus Marcos, finish there. Larkin versus Magny, finish there. Covington finished Max Griffin. Uda finished, or Vittori finished Uda. So as far as just getting finishes are concerned, there's great stuff there. It's a real good action there. There was, this card got future title contenders. Cerrone's a possible future title contender yet again, and same with Anthony Rumble Johnson. Um, you know, Garbrandt is yet another guy that might even get a title shot against Cruz. And then Conor McGregor versus Diaz. I mean, that the aftermath can go different ways. We got the trilogy, which is always looming. Uh, Diaz can go back to 155. Uh, McGregor can go to 145 and defend the title. So, that's interesting as well. There's some guys that have really just come up too. Some guys made some great UFC debuts here. Mike Perry, Marvin Vittori. I'm curious to see what they got. Prospects really came up here. Covington, Courtney Casey, and I think Larkin has officially arrived in the division as a guy that really looks like he might even be able to challenge for the title in the future. Means looks like a guy that might be able to break in the top 15. I just don't know if he can break farther than like the low end of the top 10. But man, he looked pretty good too. So yeah, a lot to like about this card. My picks, not too bad. 8 out of 12. The 4 that I missed were Larkin versus Magny, Casey versus Marcos, Perry versus Lim, and McGregor versus Diaz. As far as bonuses go, Anthony Johnson and Donald Cerrone picked up performance of the night, while McGregor versus Diaz took home fight of the night. Let's get started. So Conor McGregor defeated Nate Diaz via majority decision, 2 48-47s and 1 47-47. Scorecards were pretty much. This was a close bout. Scorecards were pretty much everywhere. I know that some gave Diaz round 3 as a 10-8. But, what do we gather in this bout? One, McGregor is utilizing those leg kicks and utilizing them early. Um, I just underestimated the fact that he'd utilize them. I should have been smarter about that. Um, but yeah, he was utilizing those quite early to great effect. McGregor also dropped Diaz in the first two rounds. I want to say he dropped him twice in the second, twice in the first, twice in the second, or something like that. He dropped him quite a bit. Um, and then something weird happened near the end of the second round. I don't know if McGregor was gassing. I suppose he gasped because, and which is really weird because he fought, he fought more efficiently and economically. So he looked gassed, like, and I don't know what happened. Like, I was watching this fight with some friends. I'm like, what just happened? Like McGregor all of a sudden just like depleted his gas tank, which is really odd because it's not like the first fight where he was just, like trying to land that left hand at will and noticeably fought in a way that just depleted his gas tank. This time he was fighting more patient. He wasn't just going forward and throwing to left or whatever. Attacked the body a couple times. So it was really surprising to see him gas. I wonder if it's just moving up to 160, he weighed in at 168. Maybe this just isn't the weight class for him. I don't think it is. There's one of the things that Diaz was also doing near the end of the second and throughout the rest of the fight was that he was closing the distance on Conor McGregor, not allowing him to get the distance for those leg kicks or the left hand. That was one thing I noticed. I was like, wait, is he getting inside just a little more? And indeed he was. um, and then you actually saw Nate Diaz utilize a lot of clinch work and clinch against the cage. Um, this is actually one other reason why I think McGregor should not be fighting at 170. It's like Nate Diaz was able to get and keep McGregor's back against the cage for just such a. I mean, yeah, McGregor's tired, but he was able to keep him there for such a long period of time. Um, and I can't help but feel that these huge 170 guys would be able to just do that to McGregor. Because it doesn't matter. I really cannot see McGregor fighting at 170. Anyways, but yeah, this was a real grueling fight. A lot of it was actually took place in the uh, like against the cage. Diaz being the one that actually initialized the clinch against the cage. He dirty box a lot of times. And man, was McGregor like he was like at the fifth round he was like looking at the clock a lot. The fourth round was actually a bit closer. McGregor was getting some good hits. Did look like he got a second wind, but then Diaz kept going back to um, getting up against the cage, hitting them with some shots, hitting them with some hard shots too. McGregor actually never went down, um, so speaks well for McGregor there. Uh, Diaz also went for really crappy looking double leg takedowns. I don't know. Like, he is not a good. Doesn't have a good shot. When Diaz takes guys down, it's usually through some form of trip or just from the clinch. He does have a couple judo throws that I've seen him utilize to great effect actually. As he and at the end of the fifth round, how did he take him down with the body lock takedown? You know, that's Nate Diaz's best takedowns. I don't know why he kept going for the doubles against the cage too. Uh, I thought he should have went with more clinch style takedowns, but man, this was such a close fight. It was a fun fight to watch too. I thought McGregor was gonna finish Diaz actually in the first two rounds. Then I thought that like by the end of the second and the third, I thought Diaz was gonna finish McGregor. So I mean, yeah, this was a fight. It really lived up to the hype too. I'm amazed how well it was. You know, just how much it lived up to that hype. Um, at the same time, it's a weird thing because this fight showed these guys to just be great fighters, but it also showed them to be, you know, not many people will point this out, but it really does kind of show that these two are like, they're really good. Most fighters like this, don't get me wrong. So they're really good at what they do, but they're not really that good anywhere else, you know? Diaz still has weakness to the leg kicks, still gets hit clean, still probably susceptible to takedowns and getting grinded on. I mean, it's still Diaz, but like, it takes an elite fighter to take advantage of that. McGregor's gas tank is a bit questionable. His inside game's a bit questionable too now. Like I'm a bit curious to see, you know, think like Michael Page or something like that. It's like, oh, if you close the distance on this guy, easier said than done. Don't get me wrong. Is he? He doesn't seem to have. He would hit him occasionally with a knee or an elbow, but it didn't seem like it was like something that he used regularly. And I wish Diaz had a knee and elbow game because, like, I thought he could have got in a couple more shots on McGregor against the cage. I mean, Diaz did hit him with a couple good elbows, but like, I just thought like the opportunity was there for even more. Um, so it was a great fight nonetheless. I mean, all fighters have weaknesses, and all fighters can't be absolutely well rounded or anything like that. But like, it's something that I felt that has to be said too. It's like, man, it was a great fight. You know, and it was the dog fight that it was. Though, I don't want to discredit the fight either. As far as who McGregor gets next, I'm hoping to go with Jose Aldo versus McGregor at 145. McGregor did not seem interested in that fight whatsoever. He also seems more interested in fighting at 155 as he wanted Nate Diaz in the trilogy at 155. So the problem is McGregor has the belt, so it's like, and Jose Aldo has the interim belt. So it's like, unless you strip the belt from McGregor or something, it only makes sense for McGregor Aldo 2 to happen. Um, Diaz is a weird case because it's like, who do you give him at, if he fights at 155, do you give him like someone coming off a win or someone coming off a loss? Does Diaz get like Dustin Poirier next? Does he get Habib Nurmagomedov? Does he get Will Brooks? Michael Chiesa, Tony Ferguson? Does he get one of those guys? Does he get Michael? No, he already fought Michael Johnson. He already fought RDA, and Cerrone's moved up, and he always fought Cerrone. Um, do you go with like Dariush or something like that? Like, uh, it's a weird thing at 155 and Nate Diaz, because the trilogy bout is always going to be there in a sense, but like, you, I think you'd want to see it with both of them coming off of wins. Um, so yeah, we'll see what happens. So right after that, Anthony Johnson defeated Glover Teixeira by knockout in 13 seconds of the first round. This man is terrifying. I mean, Anthony Johnson, the way Glover was reacting as he was like getting up, wrestling with Dan Mergliotta, looking absolutely disoriented after that. it, I mean, this is a scary knockout. It looks like you're going to have to go with Johnson versus Daniel Cormier next. I mean, really, who can you give him? You know, maybe the winner Bader versus Latifi, but what's the point? Just go with Johnson versus Cormier too. is a fine fight, and John Jones, I don't know what he's doing, so you know, I guess he's not in the picture for now. Teixeira, he can get the loser of Bader versus Latifi, or the loser of Gustafsson versus Black Witch. Next fight after that, Donald Cerrone defeated Rick Story by TKO in the second round. Cerrone has been looking excellent at 170. Um, you know what's good about Cerrone too? He did this to Kate and he did it to Story. He he actually he has good offensive takedowns, good wrestling, but it's not because he's like super explosive or anything. It's just his timing is just so good. He ducks under strikes or some, like he just knows when to time his takedowns, and he has been very good at completing takedowns. Like that's and oh, the other thing about Cerrone I like is that he doesn't complete takedowns against a cage when he goes for them. He does them in the center, in the middle of the octagon. Those are always better type of takedowns. So, he looks good there. He just has like veteran savvy now, I think, too. Story just really couldn't close the distance. I was actually talking to someone about this, and they're asking me, "Hey, what about the body shots of Story?" I'm like, "Yeah, well, he has them, but Story has to get in to do that. What does Cerrone have on the inside that he uses to great effect? Oh, those knees. Yeah, he sure used them too. And also, Cerrone's just his punches are better too. He used to not have that great of punches. The combo that finished that was like head, body, head. It looked like something from you doing a cardio kickboxing class. It's like yeah, you're not gonna hit that combo in a real fight. Oh no, Cerrone just did it. It was like this head, body, head, chase him, punch, punch, knee. I mean, like seriously, like it's beautiful. And that's the first time that Story has been finished by strikes. Um, Serrano looks great at this weight class. He doesn't even look. He looks. He's tall enough for this weight class, so that's always helpful. That's gonna be really helpful for him. That he's tall enough to fight in this weight class. He doesn't always appear to be the bigger guy as far as like width goes. A lot of guys just look more like just built, I guess, in this weight class. But Cerrone doesn't look undersized. But Cerrone said he wants to go back down to 155 to fight Eddie Alvarez for the title. I like that fight. I'd probably go with Cerrone to win that fight. I picked Cerrone to beat Alvarez. Uh, yeah, Cerrone just man, he's looking great. Whatever the heck he wants to do, let him do it. If not, at 170, he can get like Gastelum, Gunnar Nelson, or maybe Lorenz Larkin next. Story can get like Magny, Johnny Hendricks, like Dong Hyun Kim, or maybe like Matt Brown next. Next fight after that, Mike Perry defeated Hungyu Lim by TKO in the first round. This was an upset. Funny. Someone actually asked me like, "Hey, what do you think are some good like betting picks here?" And I mentioned like three. I said like Nate. The other ones were bad, but I actually said this one. uh, Funny enough, I was like, you know what? Hungyi Lim has been he's been out for a year, and the guy is just super hittable, you know. And Mike Perry hits really hard. Uh, the other thing with Hungyi Lim, this guy like from a technical standpoint is like terrible in the sense that it wasn't like some great timing or something. It's Hungyu Lim was like running into the punches. Like he was kind of running at his opponent and just ran into those punches. It looked bad. And the third one, by the time he got the third one, I mean, he just got. Did he get dropped by a lead hook or a jab? Like I think it was a lead hook, but like yeah, Hungry Lim's defense is particularly terrible. Um, and it cost him in this fight. It's a fight that he is favored to win. He's probably beaten guys just as good on the level of Mike Perry. Mike Perry, prospect. Uh, I think smarter fighters are probably going to beat Mike Perry at this time. Just guys that can probably move pretty well. Stay away from the right hand. Um, but for now, Mike Perry looked good. He got the knockout over a tough opponent, a big opponent too. Hong Lam should move up to 185. I don't know why he he insists on fighting at this weight class. I don't. He's not the most winning fighter at 170 anyways. Like he wouldn't be undersized at 185, and the guys at 185 would probably succumb to a lot of stuff that Hung Lim does anyways. So don't know why he doesn't fight at 185. I think he should. Just more lower to mid-tier guys at division for both. As far as that, Tim Means defeated Saba Homasi by TKO in the second round. What can I say? Means just destroyed Homasi with knees, elbows, body strikes, and whatever he wanted to hit him with. Um, he looks good. I think he should definitely be in that top 15, or should be fighting at top 15 guys. His takedown defense is still, he Means has had problems with takedown defense back at 155. It's a little better at 170, but he still has problems with takedown defense. It's just not that good for whatever reason. And Homasi was even able to take him down. Homasi's tough as nails. I mean, he couldn't, Means actually beating him up standing. But, Homasi wasn't ready for this level of competition. Tough guy, hits hard, but, Tim Means is a technical guy who's tough, big, hits hard, but has a technique both offensively and defensively too. That's the thing I like about Tim Means. For the most part, he's not like Hung Lim or something like that. Tim Means actually has a pretty good defense. It's not flawless or anything. I mean, when he fought Matt Brown, Brown was hitting him like real good, but Means' defense is actually pretty good. I think Means should get like Allenberger or Dong Hyun Kim next. Homasi just lower tier fighters of the division. Okay, on the FS1 prelims, Cody Garbrandt defeated Takeya Mizugaki by TKO, 48 seconds in the first round. Garbrandt just destroyed Mizugaki. He dropped him like in the ending sequence. It looked like he dropped him like 3 times in a matter of like a couple seconds. You know. And it sounds like Garbrandt's gonna get a title shot against Dominic Cruz next. I do like that fight. I wouldn't necessarily favor Garbrandt, but just because of the way that Dominic Cruz moves around and whatnot. But Garbrandt's probably one of the better, like, pure boxers of the division. His footwork actually isn't that bad. He actually has some pretty good footwork, and then he hits hard. And he's a good wrestler too. So I think he's actually a very interesting matchup for Cruz. If you want to give him someone tough, just give him Brian Caraway, because they also have beef too. Um, Caraway's proven to just be this really tough guy. Like the tough guy to beat at 135. Um, Otherwise, yeah, those are pretty much like the only 2 fights I'd go with Garbrandt at this point. I would have thought that Dillashaw would get Cruz next, but with Garbrandt getting this win, Cruz seemingly wanting this fight against Garbrandt, I think they're probably going to go Garbrandt and Cruz next. Mizugaki, he can just get more lower to mid guys at the division. Right after that, Raquel Pennington defeated Elizabeth Phillips by unanimous decision. I felt that Pennington more or less outgrinded Phillips, because a lot of this fight took place against a cage. When Pennington took Phillips down, the fact is Pennington was able to take Phillips down more than Phillips could take Pennington down. Phillips is she's real raw. Her gas tank is not very good. Raquel Pennington has proven to be solid, but not fantastic. She can wrestle a bit. She's tough. She has good clinch striking. Her overall striking game's not that bad. She's pretty good. Excuse me. Um, but uh, and I think just being good and well rounded is probably gonna get her pretty far in this division. I think there's a point though where like better athletes, or fighters just that have better singular skill sets might be able to just beat her. Pennington called out Zingano next. Not a bad fight. I'd like to see her fight like Carmouche or McMahon next. Phillips can just fight more lower tier fighters of the division. So after that, Artem Lobov defeated Chris Avila by unanimous decision. Chris Avila does not belong in the UFC. I hate to say it, but he looked like just the way he fought. I mean, he looked like a deer in the headlights. Just a guy that's needs more experience on the regional scene, and is just not ready for this level of competition. He really couldn't do anything to Lobov, and Lobov actually this was one of his better performances. He's able to counter Avila pretty well, pressure him, and kind of just do whatever he wants with him. Lobov kind of just saves his job in the UFC too. He has a terrible record. He's not a great fighter too, to be honest with you. He's not very good. He's I mean I would question if he's actually Lobov's actually even ready for this level of competition himself. And like I said, you can see Lobov versus Avila in the regional scene. But he got the win. It's in the UFC, so let's find another day. It's more lower to mid guys division for Lobov. Avila, if they want to give him another fight, cool. Um, maybe he can fight some guy from the Ultimate Fighter, Latin America, or something like that. I don't know, some lower level guy. I guess. I mean, if they want to keep him around. Next, right, that Courtney Casey defeated Ronda Marcos by armbar in the first round. Um, it has to be said, Ronda Marcos just is not pounding out as a prospect that she came off of tough. Uh, it's something I've noticed for a while now, and it's just really showing itself more and more as she fights on. She's just not putting it together. I mean, the physical tools are there. She's big. She's strong. She does have like some form of wrestling background. She's not technical. She has no sense of defense. She gets in bad positions on the ground. Uh, you know, to lose that to armbar the way she did was honestly a bit beginnerish. uh, it wasn't. I mean, she was in full guard, and Casey had like a pretty high guard, but it's like, okay, hey, watch your arms and stuff when you're in this position. You should be able to recognize. Or I would think you'd be able to recognize that position, but you know, Marcus is not pointing out as a prospect that she came in, but Casey has actually turned it around to be she might be the big, good athlete prospect of the division. Um, she won her last fight against Stan Chewy. I didn't think much of that, and then she just got this win over Ronda Marcos. It's a pretty solid win, you know. I'm thinking Casey gets someone like a Juliana Jutai Lima next or something like that. With Marcos, I mean, just some more like, she can get the loser of like Van Zant versus like Beck Rawlings or something like that. You know, Marcos looks like if she does actually put it all together, it's not going to be for like another couple of years. It's just, there's something about her game. She doesn't strike in a technical way. Um, doesn't really time her takedowns very well and whatnot. And Casey, actually looked pretty good here. So, yeah. Next, right after that, in the UFC Fight Pass prelims, Lorenzo Larkin defeated Neil Magny by elbows in the first round. Um, wow. Well, my Neil Magny streak ends here. It's kind of sad. My Johnny Hendricks streak ended at UFC 200. my Neil Magny streak ended here. I suppose my new streak I got going on is probably Cowboy Cerrone. I think I got a good win streak with him. Um, yeah, it's too bad. There are just guys that it's nice having this like one guy. It's like I'm picking him right. Okay, cool. I picked him right. Oh, he's finding this tough guy, Gaslam. Okay. Oh, everyone's picking Gaslam. I'll pick. I picked Magni. I see stuff in Magni, and it's like, oh, Magni won. Cool. Um, but he lost to Maya. I picked Maya to win, so I was like, okay, I'm still picking Magni right, but when I said in my predictions, was something like this, but times 1,000. I said like, yeah, Magni might be able to punch, might be able to clinch, but like Larkin's a much better kicker. Um, and I knew he was probably going to throw some good kicks on Magni, but I didn't know it'd be this good. I mean, he just tore up Magny's leg. Magny's going for bad takedowns and whatnot. Then, like, uh, Larkin was just finally finished him off with elbows and just looked great. This guy has been looking fantastic. His last fight against Jorge Masvidal, I thought was a technical masterpiece. If you watch that fight, the way they were like feinting and like setting up their strikes and just the strike usage that they're using was really good. Yeah, and looking at Larkin's win over Santiago Ponzinibbio, Ponzinibbio looks pretty good these days. Larkin knocked that guy out. Uh, in hindsight, that's probably a better win than it was when it happened. Larkin lost to Tumanov, and Tumanov was high up there. I'll say this right now: if Larkin fought Tumanov again, I think I'd actually pick a Larkin just because the leg kicks, the kicks, actually just the kicks, in general. I think he'd be, Larkin won that third round against Tumanov anyways with leg kicks. I think Larkin's just arrived. He just looks like a guy that is gonna get far in welterweight. I think this is his last fight on his contract. I think this is Cerrone's last fight on his contract too. UFC better sign these two guys. I know Larkin's like buddy buddy with Scott Coker though, so he used to fight in Strikeforce. Larkin was a guy that Coker actually pushed quite a bit. So I hope Larkin gets paid. Either way, wherever he goes, I hope he gets paid. And wherever he goes, he's gonna have some cool fights because Lorenz Larkin versus Andre Korskov or Michael Venom Page or Lima sounds really cool to me. Just to tell you right now, that sounds really cool. Um, if he stays in the UFC, you can give him like Ellenberger, Cerrone, if someone wants to say at 170, Gunnar Nelson, Kelvin Gastelum. Magny can get like Matt Brown, Rick Story, or Tarek Safdie next. Right after that, Colby Covington defeated Max Griffin by TKO in the third round. Pretty much what I expected, and Covington is pretty much just growing into the prospect that I think that I kind of expected. He started out primarily as a wrestler, still primarily utilizes wrestling, but you can tell he's making strides in his stand-up. Uh, Small, they're incremental strides in his stand-up, but they're there. You know. But yeah, once Covington got Griffin to the ground, he can pretty much keep him there and beat him up there and make his life very uncomfortable there. Griffin, great athlete, very explosive, heavy puncher, but yeah, he had nothing for the wrestling of Covington, and most guys will not have much for the wrestling of Covington, especially on the lower and mid end of the division. Covington needs to step up. He's just fight some like solid guy, maybe you know, one of those guys that's maybe like a Nordin Talib or something like that, or like I don't know, Alan Joban, or just someone in the mid. of the division at this point. Because, coming in like, he lost to Warley Alves by guillotine, which is fine. Um, but coming in, like I said, he's the prospect that's just building steadily. And, yeah, I'd like to see him get a step up in competition. With Max Griffin, just more lower to mid-tier guys at the division for him. And finally, Marvin Vettori defeated Alberto Udo by guillotine in the first round. I like what I see out of Vettori. This guy's actually pretty big for the weight class. He's young. He's training out of Kings. He has one hell of a guillotine because he also submitted Igor Araujo in his last fight by a guillotine, and he's a BJJ black belt. And Alberto Uda, I believe, is a BJJ black belt, and he just got submitted by the guillotine. So Vettori has a great guillotine. We know that. He's also hyper aggressive. He hits hard. He has good ground and pound. There's a lot to like about him. I'm very curious to see how he works out as a prospect. He's already pretty aggressive, seemingly quite fearless right now. And then he's training at a Cordero who's actually going to nurture that. So, yeah, I think the pieces are falling into place for Marvin Vittori. He said his dream is to headline a card in Italy. You know what? The way this kid's going, he's only like 22 or 23. Yeah, I can see that happen, to be perfectly honest with you. Uda, 2 losses in a row, both times getting finished. Might get cut. So, that's pretty much it for my post-fight analysis for UFC 202. If you have any comments, just leave them below. And, please check out some of my works, starting with my first novel, The Mustard Prince in the Condiment Kingdom, for $4.99 on my website at www.chrismaldon.com on PDF format, or on Amazon.com if you have some sort of e-reader. You can also check out some of my short stories and short story collections for just $1.99, such as The Land of the Wooden Statues, the horror collection, or my fantasy fable collection. Links to these will be provided in the description below. So, yeah, that's pretty much it for MMA for you. Thank you guys very much.